absolutely. I mean, parents were pushing me hard, like, it's doctor, engineer, or failure. Which one's it going to be? Which of the three you picking?
Family,
And it was going to be, we weren't going to be a doctor, we weren't going to be an engineer. I was one of those kids that did enough to not get kicked out. Just enough to get by.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Property Strategies Podcast.
Welcome.
Back again.
We are.
Who we here with today?
You got your boy Goke in the building.
You got your boy Akin in the house. And we got a special guest.
Special guest.
We got Saj Hussain in the building.
Hello, Saj.
Hey guys.
How you doing?
I'm very good. Thank you so much for having me.
Brilliant. Can you just a quick one or two lines? Who are you? Who is Saj Hussain?
So I've been doing property about 15, 16 years, done lots of different strategies, Birmingham based, and predominantly built the business using other people's money.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And thank you so much for coming on the pod today.
You're welcome.
I know you're a busy guy, so thank you for taking the time out to come on. We're going to start, what we like to do when we get people on the podcast is just start right from the beginning. So 15, 16 years ago, before you even got into property, what was you doing beforehand? And I guess maybe uni, after uni, what career would you in?
So I was at university at Wolverhampton actually, and one day we'd kind of worked out how much rent we were paying our landlord.
Okay, that early on.
This must have been about late 80s actually, 89, something like that. And we kind of worked out, actually, we should be doing this. And so we went out to look at property in Wolverhampton, and they were typically 25, 26, 27 grand, 3-4 bedroom house.
Wow.
And we thought, this is what we should be doing.
Back then.
Then we found out about mortgages and then endowment policies and a few other things, and then there was a usual party at the weekend and that, and then we moved on to the next thing.
I thought you were about to say then I learned, then I start from there, and no. And
we never did anything with it.
It's always like that.
And when we look back now, I think, it's crazy. If we actually did do something with it, then those houses are probably 170, 180 grand now, little boxes there. But I mean, I'd made the decision that I didn't want to work for anybody else. I wanted to do my own thing. And we were at a height of recession. There wasn't really a lot of opportunities. Black, Asian background, you weren't going to get the decent jobs that everybody else is, the nice posh jobs. Exactly. You weren't going to get one of those. So you got to make your own way. So I had an interest in computers for quite a long time. And we decided starting an IT company would be the thing to do. And at that time, it sounds really exciting, but it's really about just supplying computers. In the early days where most offices didn't even have a computer on the desk. That's what we were doing, and then it evolved into networking, putting network servers and stuff in, and we ran for about 14 years.
Oh wow.
And we some of it was right timing, right place. Some of it we did okay, and we did make quite a lot of money during that time. But then some of it goes to your head a little bit, and you think everything you touch turns to gold. And I was
entitled.
I was humbled and realised actually that's not the case. Made quite a few mistakes, and ultimately that business had to put into administration. It kept tumbling down, and we had millions of pound turnover. We were doing quite a few staff, and everything went. So there's
was that a managed service?
So then it was supplying actual equipment, and it was doing maintenance and support contracts, schools, solicitors, accountants, that sort of stuff. We were doing. So one side was doing really well, making good money. The other side was kind of draining money, and sometimes we need to know when we need to stop and not keep putting money into the black hole, which I was doing. And during that time, actually, we bought a house by accident. I said by accident because my dad was trying to push me and my wife and say, look, you kind of need to move on now. and so we bought this house that wasn't that far from our offices, and that we sold in the end. I think we made like 80 grand or something from it, doing nothing. We just bought it. Yeah. And so when we look back afterwards, after we lost the IT business and stuff, and so, what's the one thing that made us the most money that we did the least amount?
Yeah.
It was property. It was that property. And when I looked around, many of the wealthiest people I knew, and they were all making money from property, or they kept money in property. And the timing was such, it doesn't matter. At that point, it didn't matter what you bought. Everybody's making money from property because the prices were just rising. So that's what got me thinking about property. The challenge, I didn't have any money then. So it was, how do you start? How do you do this thing? There was no Facebook groups or stuff at the time. A few networking events, and few seminars, a forum. There used to be an online forum, and that was it really. And we kind of started learning a little bit from there.
It's interesting that obviously you started property by accident. I want to kind of get insight into like how was Birmingham and West Midlands at the time, because obviously I came in 2013 for uni, so I suppose my age. But at that point, even from then till now, Birmingham and West Midlands have developed so much. So like, what was it like back then? Not only the city in terms of buildings, but just like the whole feel of the area and just things like that.
I think although Birmingham is the second city, it's always felt like it's the poor cousin of Manchester.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I see that.
It's just never really it never really took off until recently. I think the big change happened when the HS2 was actually going to go ahead. It looked like it's going to go ahead. That's when we saw things just starting to go a little bit mental in city centre. Some of the bigger companies moving to here. But in terms of residential prices, when I first started, it was about 2006. And price was still strong then, the market was strong. It was late 2007, everything started changing. And at that time, the market was still very buoyant, and I actually started out and went off to Stoke-on-Trent because I heard property was very cheap there. And you could actually buy a house for £10,000.
Wow.
But, you probably wouldn't want to live there.
Yeah. I've been to Stoke, I know what you're talking about.
If you drive through the traffic lights, you stop and jack up, you can't take your wheels. No, it's not. I mean, Stoke's not that bad. But I ended up in Stoke because I just heard it was cheap. I was active in Stoke for a couple of years. And then 2008 market started changing completely. I think 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is probably when we've done really well. Then 13 started changing. Then I think 2014 onwards, up until probably last year, I think we've just been on like a steady upward trajectory in terms of prices.
I'm going to take it back. I'm going to take it back a bit, and I'm going to come back again. In regards to when you started, and you said something earlier, you said you just knew you didn't want to work for anybody. It's always important to kind of go back to where that started from, that sort of mindset. Where did that come from? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people at the moment at home wanting to do more. You wasn't born, Saj wasn't born today. Like, it came from somewhere. So just, where did that mindset kind of come from?
Yeah, I mean, we were your typical working class, poorish family in the sense that you got by. It's not that we didn't, we didn't have food to eat, but you knew you weren't comfortable at that time in the 80s when I was at school. Racism was just rife, and you used to see some of the middle class kids, like designer tops and stuff was all the fashion then. Your takinis and your stuff, and that was just like
back then
in the day, man. That was it. But when you had a couple of pounds pocket money, and somebody's wearing £100 jacket, you just couldn't. It just didn't make sense. How does that even possible? And I think that's where the desire for being able to want more came from. It's a case, we could do more. We should be able to do more. We should have more. And I was interested in computing quite early. And what I actually used to do is sell computer games when I was 12, 13. So by the time I left school, the computer equipment I had at home was probably more valuable than the stuff in the school. Because I was just kind of making money from it and then putting it back in. And that gave me a taste for actually, what, you can choose your destiny. You can choose which way you want to go. And Porsche 911s and Motorola brick phones and stockbrokers was the thing at that time. I mean, most people probably listen to this thinking, what on earth is this guy talking about?
You said Takini. I said, all right, Saj, I'm not sure what that is.
I thought that was Prada. I was maybe Prada or something.
Some designer tops at that time.
I thought so.
Okay. And, coming from like an Asian background, I know similarly from like our background, it's like education's a big thing.
Yes.
Was that similar in your household?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, parents were pushing me hard, like, it's doctor, engineer, or failure. Which one's going to be? Which of the three you picking? And it was going to be, we weren't going to be a doctor, we weren't going to be an engineer. I was one of those kids that did enough to not get kicked out. Just enough to get by.
I know the feeling.
F, does that mean I can stay? So actually, I'm joking about it now, but it's not that you're lazy; it's that you're interested in other things.
100%.
You just don't apply yourself. I mean, you see it all the time. There are a lot of kids that you could see they were intelligent, smart, but they weren't academic. They weren't, your A-star students. And I think that was the environment. It's a case of, I wanted to change that and get out of it.
Yeah. So you spoke about your first store that you accidentally got into. What was that deal, and how did that kind of push you on to try and look at some other stuff as well?
Well, the first property we actually bought ourselves, I first started off sourcing property for let me kind of give a bit more context first. So when I first started looking into property and making money from property, it was going along to a few networking events. It used to be like, I think 3 or 4 in the whole country at that time. There weren't many. And a few workshops, reading a few books. And there was a lot of stuff around no money down at the time. You can buy houses for nothing really. And I started learning about lots of different strategies, but the shiny penny syndrome was the biggest challenge, constantly getting distracted. It's that thing about I go to, presentation, someone's talking about they're doing HMOs, they're making £1,000 a month in HMOs.
Talk to me about that.
I'm interested. And I'm trying to learn about that and how that works. And a few months later, somebody else is talking about, they're buying houses for £1, and I'm thinking, forget HMOs.
Lease options.
I've got 10 quid, buy 10 houses. Talk to me. A few months later, somebody else is talking about no money down. I think, forget the £1. I'm buying houses for free. And it was this constant jumping around, and we never really focused. It was just dipping your toe in lots of different things. Looking back now, the advantage was that actually I learned a lot about a lot of different strategies quite quickly. We were talking about this earlier just before we started, doing a lot of different things. But the challenge, I wasn't really getting any results. I was learning about this stuff. And then when I looked at my strengths and got some help about, just put your blinkers on and stop getting distracted by all these other things. Just focus on one thing. What's the thing you're doing well? I was actually naturally quite happy sitting in people's front room talking to them about, hey, look, we'll buy your property. The market's not what it is, but if you want to get it done, we can do it. And I was quite happy and comfortable doing those things. So I'd generate lots of leads, lots of potential deals. But I actually deep down felt I haven't got the money to buy them. And felt a bit of a fraud sitting there saying I'm going to buy your house and stuff. And I kind of so I had a lot of this stuff going on inside. And so my mentor was saying to me, look, what you need to do is just focus on that, find the deals and sell them to other people. There's other people around you struggling for deals, just sell them to them. And that's what I started doing, a couple of £1,000, 3,000, occasionally it's a little bit more. And I was just selling deals for a couple of years or so at least. And that got me steady in terms of at least there's some income coming in and at least keep a roof over my own head. And then the first deal I actually did, a no money down deal, that was in Stoke-on-Trent. That was an elderly couple. I say elderly, they're probably just a few years older than I am now.
Saj, only 4 years old. What are you talking about?
And the husband had mobility issues, so he couldn't go up the stairs. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-story house. And they were retiring. They'd found a park home that they wanted to move to. The location was perfect for them. But nobody was buying property at that time. The market was just dead. And so nobody's interested in buying their property.